Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Steven Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you'll be listening to. On this episode, we're going to be answering a bunch of your questions, but also we got some news in the world of wrestling, including a live update. Live for us, not for y'all, on the Continental Classic. And we'll reveal who we think is going to win. Also, we're going to talk about, we'll have an update on the latest of Jade Cargill and her time in WWE. Where's she been? We're going to find out here in a moment. And then Triple H talks about the creative process. Man, they're on a roll, and we're going to hear how he does it. We're going to hear his magic formula for creative success, Larson.
We are, but first.
Let's
talk about this.
Yeah.
Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso. It's just him, Oos.
Just him, Oos.
He is in your city. Had a pretty wide-ranging interview with The Ringer. Talks about what singles title he wants to try to get first. That'd be their Continental title. But there's a segment here where he talks about the Usos maintaining their top spot on the power rankings of tag teams currently.
Yep.
And it said if anybody wants to challenge them, guess where they got to go?
Through WWE to WWE.
The Fed. That's right. Here's what Jay had to say. Y'all want these dream matches? Y'all gonna have to bring your ass to WWE, dog, to the top tier. You all gonna have to come. Where we ain't gonna where we at ain't dropping down. Young Bucks, everybody, like, bring it, dog, run it. We the ones for a reason, and I mean that. I stand on that, bro. We the best tag team in the world, and if you want to get detailed with it, I'm talking about on the microphone, the way we dress, the way the gear looks, the way we carry ourselves, the swag, the ink, everything, the hair, the grills, the earrings, the chain, all that's real, Oos. All that is real.
All right, let me just say this. Let me just say this really quick. I don't think anybody has more legit ink than Brody King. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way.
I would say Malachi too.
Malachi too, but dude, have you seen Brody? He's like head to toe. Like I would not be shocked if by the end of 2024 Brody got the face done, like full face. He is like, if you look from like neck down, that dude does not have an inch. Oh, Gold League, Swerve Strickland. I'm watching this thing live.
Blue and gold. Okay.
So I love that he brings up the Young Bucks. Of course, now that they've signed a new multi-year deal with AEW, and they've fast-forwarded their careers all the way to end of deal creatively.
Yes. They just trademarked something today. It was like KTB Wrestling.
Maybe he think, are they going to start a league?
It was yesterday. Yeah, it's their own wrestling league.
Maybe they think. Maybe Jey Uso looks at what the Young Bucks have been doing lately and is like, oh, they're going to be headed to the Fed soon because they're not really doing anything, so they're probably at the end of contract. Al contraire, nah. They're at the beginning of a new contract.
They got four more years probably.
Right. Yeah, all sorts of Gold Leaguers here. We got Gold League. Oh, there you go. Roosh is in the Gold League. Oh. Yeah.
Star-studded field already.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be like 8 people in the Gold League, and then Danielson is by himself.
Danielson gets a bye to the finals.
He gets a bye to the finals. Exactly. Yeah.
No, I mean, Jey Uso, I get his perspective. WWE, they're riding high right now. You could make the case, I think, pretty easily that they're the best from a financial business standpoint they've been probably since the Attitude Era. TV numbers are up as long as they're not opposing Monday Night Football. But even numbers this week against a really highly viewed game between the Eagles and Kansas City. Raw held its own.
Yeah,
I think the Monday Night Football game this week was one of the most viewed football games in years.
I think it was the largest. It was like 28 million. According to Meltzer, it was 28 million, and I think he said the largest. It might have been in some span of time. I don't know if it was the largest ever, but
yeah. I think it was some span of time. And him saying that WWE's top tier. A lot of respects. That's correct.
I mean, it's
showcase. They want these dream matches. He's saying you got to come to us. We ain't going to you.
It's easy to say, if you want an Usos dream match, that's done with, by the way. We're not even a team anymore. But
that'll change.
But yeah, like, look, man, I get it in terms of the marquee Gold League, Mark Briscoe. In terms of like the marquee biggest names, sort of the biggest platform, clearly it's, WWE, it's the WrestleMania. But in terms of, honestly, like in terms of for my money, I get what he's saying. WWE's got some good wrestling, don't get me wrong. But if you want like, oh, how would these guys matched up unfettered by any sort of like restrictions on the way they wrestle?
Oh, yeah.
It ain't WWE, but if you want the marquee, like, the entertainment value, then it's WWE. So it's all based off of what you like. I love that he called out the Young Bucks because for so long, it's always been like the Usos, Young Bucks, New Day, Young Bucks, New Day, Elite, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun. I like that he called that out, and he says, hey, you guys need to get out of developmental. Come up to where the big boys play. Check the adjective.
Play, indeed. Indeed. The nearest we've gotten to any sort of those dream matches was that thing at G4. Remember that, where the Elite and the New Day played video games?
I remember that, yeah. And Nick and Matt Jackson seemed like they were barely interested. It was just like Xavier Woods and Kenny Omega were interested in that.
I know.
The other four were like, I would probably rather be wrestling right now.
Yeah, we're here. We're here we're here. We'll have fun, but
yeah, exactly. We're here to get some free merchandise.
Exactly. Let's talk a Triple H here. So,
oh man, that's my guy right there.
Yeah, Steve's number one guy ever, right? Top guy ever.
Oh, it's on the Mount Rushmore. There's DX Triple H. There's CEO or whatever he is now, Triple H. There is the Game Triple H, and of course there's Terrorizing. That's my Mount Rushmore of all of wrestling. Jay Lethal, Gold League.
For Cody?
You heard me. Cody might get there one day when he takes over running WWE.
That's the thing. So Triple H spoke with Sports Illustrated recently and discussed his creative process and what he learned, as he put it, from Vince McMahon. Steve, you want to take these quotes? You can do it in your awesome Triple H impression. It's like spot on. It's so spot on.
Throat's not. I don't have a good Triple H. I've got a lot of other ones. He said, Vince taught me years ago, you put yourself... I'll do it. Yeah, I just can't not do it. You put yourself in the seats and you never go wrong. You've always got to maintain that perspective. I started out as a fan. I'm not going to do it anymore. He says, book what people want to feel and see. Writing this stuff is a feel. You can analyze stories and how they come together, but how does it make you feel? If you can make people feel those stories, they're going to be invested in the product. That's how we try to approach. Find that ultimate emotional place for the talent and the characters and the stories they're in. We don't take our fan base for granted. And when this editorializing, when he says we, I firmly believe he means he's not referring to Vince there because that happened for a long time.
Years.
He continues, and the way our talent operates is different from other generations. They want to go out there and put on the best possible show they can. A lot of these kids are already invested. They grew up wanting to do this, and if they didn't, they fell in love with it by learning from people who grew up wanting to be in this business, and that's how they learn the respect for it. To me, that's what makes you successful, that connection with our fan base. That's a big part of our core. End quote. It's so refreshing to hear a guy talk about, I mean, dude, listen, this could be, if you take the Vince taught me bit, this could be Werner Herzog. You've always got to maintain that perspective. I started out as a fan, book what people want to feel and see. Writing this stuff is a feel. Come on, man. You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like Werner might intellectualize things a little bit more and make some reference to like Greek tragedy or Shakespeare.
Think about what you felt when Linda McMahon was in a wheelchair. And she steps out of it and slaps Vince. He really loved that angle, dude.
Yeah, he really did love that angle. He really did love that angle. This if Triple H learned whatever he said here from Vince, it was probably in 1998.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah,
like anything within the last, 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
It seemed like more often than not, fans were getting behind somebody. Vince would punish them for getting themselves over.
Yeah.
As opposed to embrace it. Now we see Triple H these days. You see someone like LA Knight, who's gotten themselves over pretty organically and pretty short order. And he's trying to capitalize on that momentum, on that popularity, but he's not going all in on it.
Yeah,
He's
right.
taking his time to see if it's got legs. You know, which is something Vince did with Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm.
Stone Cold started getting over in 96. It wasn't like, all right, we're going to push you to the moon right away.
Yeah.
It was a good year and a half before he won the title.
Mm-hmm.
And he took plenty of L's along the way.
Yeah, there was a real investment in Stone Cold, to see where this was going to go, how far it was going to go. And yeah, you saw that. And that would happen all the time back in the day, It's like Vince would take some real risks. And dude, I don't know, like somewhere along the way, because here's the thing, even as late as like 2016, like, look, there were eras where things were bad, and a lot of that stuff I feel was more predicated on what they wanted from a business perspective. Take, for example, the guest host era, which a lot of people in the internet wrestling community in general just think was sort of piss poor. I understand why they did it. It was let's see, how much we can, juice that mainstream casual fan appeal and bring more people in. I get why they did that. But even as late as like 2016, there was still like, SmackDown went through that whole era. He put the title on AJ Styles for like a year. Granted, it was sort of treated like the consolation prize back then, but still that portion of a fan base had something really to glom onto. And so like even as late as, I don't know, what is that, 7 years ago now, there was good stuff. And then, he decided the ultimate business decision, put that title on Jinder so we can juice the Indian market. And honestly, there hasn't really been much like great since then. It's always been, okay, you're approaching something that's good.
Yeah,
you've got some seeds of a good idea. There's a lot of really good stuff going on in NXT with no follow through on main roster. And so, I mean, you guys all know the story, but, so yeah, it's refreshing to hear somebody who is maybe taking a lot of the innovation that Vince McMahon brought 50 years ago to pro wrestling, and he's modernizing it and he's keeping it fresh and understanding really what pro wrestling is and why it connects, or why it can connect with people.
Well, and not just what pro wrestling is and how and why it can connect with people, what pro wrestling is today.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't seem like Triple H is subscribes to the same kind of antiquated thinking in a lot of respects that Vince had for so long.
Yeah, right.
And that's also very refreshing to see somebody who understands and respects pro wrestling's traditions, but also to move the industry forward.
Yeah.
So it's not the same old stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of the complexity of character that we're seeing now in WWE, we just wouldn't have seen for the most part if Vince were still in charge on a day-to-day basis. That just wasn't his thing. It never was Vince's thing.
Yeah.
He didn't want complexity. He wanted simplicity.
Yeah. It is really shocking when you look at the difference between WWF, pre and post Vince, because very quickly, it's funny because you look at the WWE pre-Vince, pre Triple H and in the Triple H era, and in a lot of ways, there are similarities in how quickly he sort of, instituted his way, especially now that Vince seemingly is done. Even going back to last year's SummerSlam, when Triple H, that was his first Big Four pay-per-view, and it was like the first thing he did without Vince, because it was right after, Vince left the company because of the allegations. And you see like this sort of almost sea change, and it's using the same characters because the talent was there. And that's sort of the difference. When Vince took over, the talent that he wanted wasn't there yet. So what did he do? He went out and poached them all. And then as soon, like Hogan had like 2 matches, I think 1 singles match, which was a squash, before he won the title coming into the WWE. It was, he came in 79, but then he left, went to AWA, did a lot of New Japan stuff, and then came back in, 83 or 84, whatever it was.
84, I believe.
84, yeah. Immediately, he just put the title. He was like, this is what I want pro wrestling to be. Title goes on him, and we're just going to start loading it up. And within 12 months, it was a completely different situation. You went from Backlund to Hogan in, I think, less than 12 months. And it was a sea change. It was completely different. And you see that, and that's what you need. You need a guy with a vision for what it is, and Triple H is that guy now. And it's nice to be finally at that point, so we're not bitching about it like we were back in 2020, saying, this is just Monday Night Raw literally is giving us a headache.
Yeah. Can't watch it anymore on Monday nights. No, that's correct. You're right. We got some new entrants here in the Continental Classic. We'll get to that in a moment.
Where's because we're doing this sort of on the fly.
I'm
Eddie Kingston.
just following along on Twitter. He's got to be in the blue because they announced him.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got to be the last person in the blue because it's 12 people.
Yeah.
Or the first person. I'm just guessing he's here.
Yeah, you gotta guess he's in there.
Because that would make sense. Anyways.
Full brackets. Here we go. Courtesy of Wrestle Talk.
Oh, nice.
Well, here, let's talk Jade Cargill first.
Well, let's go ahead and pay some bills first. Let's do that.
Oh, let's do that, yeah.
All right.
This episode of Going in Raw is sponsored by BetterHelp. Steve?
Yes.
Can we be real for a moment? Can we, please?
Yeah, let's keep it real.
I know that people usually associate this time of year with joy and spending time with family and such, but the holidays, they can be a lot. For some, lead to stress, anxiety, sadness.
That's true. And if you're dealing with the seasonal blues during the holidays, therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress. Something to look forward to help you feel grounded and to provide you with tools to manage everything going on.
Back in my mid-20s, I started dealing with really severe anxiety, and it led me to have one particularly forgettable holiday season. Eventually, that anxiety got to the point where I realized I had to make the realization that if I wanted to live a happy, productive life, that I needed to go to therapy. Once I found a therapist I was comfortable talking to, I was able to learn the tools and positive coping skills I needed to better manage my anxiety and get me back on track to live a happier, more productive life.
So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. And all you got to do to get started is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and then you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge.
So find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/raw today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw.
All right, before we talk about the Continental Classic, have some champagne. Let's talk about Jade Cargill. So she made an appearance on all three of WWE's brands shortly after signing with the company, but eagle-eyed viewers would know that she hasn't been seen on TV in recent weeks, not even in one of those patented Triple H backstage where she's like hovering backstage talking to somebody. Not even doing that. And according to Wrestle Purists, Cargill has been training at the WWE Performance Center with a former NXT Women's Champion. Quote, when asking around about how Jade Cargill has been progressing at the WWE Performance Center and when she may make her WWE in-ring debut, sources mostly stayed tight-lipped. However, we were able to find out one person who's been training in the ring with Cargill. According to sources, Roxanne Perez has been one of the names who's been spotted training in the ring with Jade Cargill at the Performance Center. It's a good name to have in there with Jade Cargill. For one thing, Roxanne Perez, that's shorter than Jade Cargill. That's who Jade Cargill is going to be going up against a lot of times anyways. So I don't know. I brought up the height thing.
I don't know either. Roxanne's a really good wrestler.
She's a really good wrestler, yeah.
Really good wrestler. Unless they can have, I don't know, like Becky or Charlotte come in and help with the training. If who they have to work with is predominantly NXT talent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Roxanne Perez is pretty high on the list as far as talents that you'd want people to train with, I would think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I wonder if thought was ever given to bringing Meiko Satomura in for a little while, because that'd be like somebody who's like a veteran. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, who has experience, I believe, training.
Yeah, no, exactly.
A lot of experience training.
Yeah. That's cool. I don't know. Take your time with it. I do think that they should probably. I mean, I don't know. How do you stand on the if you had the pencil, if you had the vision, Larson? In terms of, okay, they put her on TV, make her look like a big star.
Yeah.
Now she's gone. I don't know. I'm not going to call it jarring creatively because, like, but she was there.
Yeah.
It's conspicuous that she's not there now.
I know.
How would you have handled that creatively as opposed to just keeping her off TV? Or do you think that it's all right the way they're doing it?
Well, I mean, ideally, I think what they maybe could have and should have done is have her make those appearances in all the brands, and you could have like a free agent bidding war essentially, where you got Raw, SmackDown, NXT all making their pitch about why Jade should come to their brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you could have that story play out while she's training at the Performance Center, and so. But don't have her hire like a lawyer or anything, because we saw that in AEW with Mark Sterling, and it didn't work.
What about like an agent, similar to that, like a comedic agent?
No.
Yeah, like they bring back like Ike Manjiro to be her agent.
I mean, that could be funny.
He's like, listen, she's going to need a lot of money, also an investment in Style Strong.
Yes. I'm going to take my commission in blazers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Custom printed blazers.
Yeah, no comedic agents. Please don't do that.
No, don't do that. Please don't do that. I mean, that could have been something that could have played out over weeks without her necessarily having to be on TV every week.
Yeah, but weeks might be months that she'll be.
Could be.
That it could be, that sound like the code that Starfleet uses. Weeks, not months.
Hours instead of days. Days instead of hours.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I guess, it's just sort of situation where like, okay, you must unlearn what you have learned at AEW. We got to start from, I mean, she was training with Danielson, but who knows how long or how much, she was training with him.
Yeah. And who knows, if I know obviously Danielson is familiar with the quote unquote WB style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's probably trying to, keep her from that.
And it might be a situation where, okay, you were taught one way by, wasn't she trained with the Nightmare Factory before that?
Maybe. Perhaps.
Trained with Danielson. Now that you're here, we're going to train you how we do it in the WWE.
She's like, listen, he was telling me about all these crazy, bear moves.
In the event that he were to wrestle Brock Lesnar.
Right, exactly. Move around, do a bunch of little rolls and stuff. They're like, okay, no, we got a lot of work to do. Roxanne, come on in here.
What's great though is I'm sure he did that somewhat in jest on Total Bellas.
He had a giant smile on his face, like he knew that it was silly.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Did he? I forget because he had a killer match with Brock Lesnar, like a terrifying match with Brock Lesnar. I don't remember him busting
out any of those moves in that match.
I don't think he did.
It'd have been damn hilarious if he had.
I remember he just got dropped on his head way too much in that match, and he looked like he was having a ball doing it too.
Yeah, I know. It did. Talk about a ball. Let's talk about what should be fun. Continental Classic.
The Continental. Oh shit! Did they ever reveal the belt or no?
I don't know. I haven't seen that yet.
I don't think they did. No, I'm looking at the video right now. They never revealed. No, they never showed the belt. It's just sitting there under a piece of felt or whatever this is. What is this?
Velvet.
Velvet. Yeah, it was velvet. Oh, I said felt. Got a similar one.
So we got the field. We can make our picks here. So this is round robin style.
Yeah.
So everybody in each block wrestles each other once.
Mm-hmm.
Points.
Yeah, right.
You get 3 points for a win, 1 for a tie, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
0 points for a loss. So in the blue league,
mm-hmm.
blue block, we got Eddie Kingston, who's putting up his New Japan Strong and Ring of Honor World title every match, he said.
Right.
We got Bryan Danielson. We got Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
Brody King.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Garcia. And Claudio. Thank you. In the gold league, the gold block, we got John Moxley.
Yeah.
Swerve Strickland.
Ooh.
Roosh. Mark Briscoe.
Yeah.
Jay Lethal.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay White.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a good field. It's a very good field.
Oh, no, man. That's terrific. You've got a couple dudes in Mark Briscoe and Daniel Garcia who can be like, the guys who get like one match. They win like one match, maybe 2 matches.
Yeah.
Like Mark Briscoe should have a win over Jay White because Jay White you know, Jay White was at his best when he'd lose a match that he shouldn't lose.
Yeah.
He goes ballistic backstage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of like, okay, let's just fast forward. Number one, we know that coming out of the Blue League, I mean, it's going to be Bryan Danielson, right?
You would think so.
Danielson's he's going to win this whole thing because he's going to beat Eddie. He's going to become the New Japan / Ring of Honor champion.
And Continental Classic champion. Continental champion.
Okay, but let me ask you this. So to become the Continental champion, you got to win the whole shebang.
Oh, yeah. But if you don't, like if he reaches the final and loses to Mox, for example, he loses the New Japan Strong and Ring of Honor title.
Right. So he could be kind of like a transitional champion if he beats Eddie, but then doesn't win the Continental title, but then Mox will absorb, he'll rawgate those other 2 titles, and it'll be all the one. I guess I don't know if it's going to be all just 3 titles floating around or it's going to be the one title. I would suspect it's going to be all 3 titles. What if things go south with New Japan?
I know, because, you know, if they're dubbing this the new Triple Crown, modern day Triple Crown, well, you got to have the 3 belts to represent the Triple Crown.
Right, exactly, yeah. So,
think.
I mean, you could totally see Danielson. So, I mean, yeah, I think, look, Danielson versus Mox in the finals, a Blackpool Combat Club finals. No other reason for those guys to be in a feud because they're in a thing together. But if this is Danielson's last thing, gotta have that match at some point.
And here's the thing about Mox. That's kind of his MO, is traveling wrestler now, but you know, he's wrestled fairly frequently in New Japan. Hell, he's got a match at Wrestle Kingdom with Ospreay and David Finlay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess, sure, Ring of Honor champ, why not? Oh, and then he just lost the International Championship match to Orange, put the Continental Championship on him. It makes sense to have him be the traveling champion.
Do you see that as a more likely outcome? Mox beating Danielson in the finals, assuming Danielson beats Kingston, or do you not think Danielson has a chance of winning this entire thing?
Here's what gives me pause about Danielson winning this entire thing, is that he's got Okada at Wrestle Kingdom.
There's a lot going on with Danielson, including like the end of his full-time run. Yeah,
exactly. Now they could do a thing where it's like, all right, this is the end of your full-time run. We're going to give you these, you know, these 3 belts in lieu of a world title run, because that's kind of mapped out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you could, you know, whether you travel and wrestle in the various promotions or just have all your matches here defending these titles, regardless, that's an opportunity. And it's entirely possible they have the Danielson-Okada match without defending this new Triple Crown title, even though if one of them the New Japan belt, it'd seem weird that it's not defended at a New Japan show.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, when Mox is in that match with Ospreay and David Finlay for a new belt, since Finlay busted up the U.S. title, again, same situation there. It'd be strange for Mox not defend the New Japan title in that particular match.
Yeah. I mean, there are other names here. Swerve is coming off a highly talked about, especially at this point, death match with Hangman Page that has become apparently divisive. Although I still don't understand why. Even people in our comments are like, "Oh, it's too much." I didn't realize there would be so many pearl clutchers out there. Like, dude, that's supposed to be me, Larson.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's your MO, not so much for blood, as for people being dropped on their head.
That's the thing. It's like,
the floor.
Look, man, here's the thing. Blood. I'm not going to say it's harmless because it's clearly not. But if both men are on the same page, health-wise, like that, I'd much rather see a dude, you know, drinking a fountain of another man's blood, as gross as that might be to some, and as off-putting as that might be, than see a leg dangling like this, like Dante Martin's leg on that ladder spot, or Sid. I'd much rather see that than somebody than the botched Spanish, standing Spanish. Spanish fly? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah, Spanish fly. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep on thinking of it. So like, man, Spanish fly, it's got such a negative connotation. So I'm like, they really named a movie? Yeah, they did. You know, I'd rather see the blood spot than somebody land on their head.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, that's like their life or their, you know, their career, their mobility or whatever. You know? So, I don't know. Anyways, so Swerve, he's a name that they might want to, you know, push in a major way. See, hey, what do these titles look like? How does the crowd respond with this dude with all his titles, you know?
Yeah. And it'd be strange to have him in this tournament with all this momentum after that match with Paige, and not follow through with it.
A guy who might need this as a win, Jay White. I mean, that's one thing we got to think about. Also, is that maybe they want to go to a future guy, to a younger guy who's on the come up. Jay White, who looked pretty good with that AEW, the Triple B, wasn't his, but he was carrying around. He claimed it was his. With 3 titles, he's got ties to New Japan. That's the thing, though. He did have a loser leaves New Japan. I don't think he's allowed to wrestle in New Japan anymore.
I don't think so. So I can see Jay going far, but coming up short in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, Roosh is coming back from time off. Based on a handful of matches he's had since he's come back, it's pretty obvious that Tony Khan enjoys his work. Now, does he enjoy his work enough to put these 3 titles on him? I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think in the blue block, it's down to Eddie Danielson, and in the gold, it's Mox Swerve or Jay White. I know it's almost half the field I named as far as potential winners, but
who do you think is going to have a surprisingly good run, or who has the potential to have a surprisingly good run?
Maybe Brody King?
That's the name I was about to say, yeah. Brody King. I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Brody.
He might be reckoned. He might get a win. He might be the guy who gets a win over Danielson. He gets a win over Kingston. Maybe when he comes up against Andrade, since there's a little bit of history there with the whole mask thing for a week. People, often we'll need Excalibur to do his exposition thing. If you guys remember, for 1 week, they had a feud over a mask.
Yeah.
And then we completely dropped it.
AEW.
So yeah, in the blue league, Garcia's going to be the guy eating L's.
That's kind of his story, though, too.
Exactly. Losing wrestler.
Yeah, it's going to probably be a situation where Danielson goes 4-1.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Eddie goes 4-1, and then everybody else is like 3-2 or 2-3.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Except Garcia's probably be 1-4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Same with Mark Briscoe. Yeah, I could see that being the case.
Yeah.
We got a bunch.
Mark Briscoe will get the win over Jay Lethal, though. He'll beat Jay Lethal.
Oh yeah, there you go. I'd love to see him beat Jay White. I think it'd be awesome.
That would be. I mean, in the promo he talked about having Jay White's number, I believe.
See that
tag matches.
Jay White, got your number.
So.
All right, let's go ahead and answer some questions. Got a bunch of good questions here from the friendos.
We do. Start off here with Keith.
Hello, Keith.
Says, who should Seth Rollins' next opponent be, and do you see him carrying the world title into WrestleMania this April?
I hope he doesn't. I hope he loses it like the Rumble, because he needs. I feel like he's probably just better off chasing, and you need to screw around with it. If you're not going after a record, then tell some stories with it. And I kind of feel like they're telling a story with the back thing. Although he hasn't really mentioned it. I feel like the War Games thing, Judgment Day should have... Well, I guess they did sort of mention that, huh? Who should his next opponent be?
Should be Drew McIntyre again. And he should lose this time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At the Rumble. And have Drew win that title. And it'd be interesting if he were to win the championship, if Judgment Day redoubled their recruitment efforts of him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's dominant. He's a former 2-time world champ. If he wins again, he'd be a 3-time world champ.
Yeah.
And you got an actual experienced world champ potentially in your faction rather than a prospective world champ in Damian Priest, who has to cash in and not be hapless to do it, which we haven't exactly seen yet.
Well, man, if they really want to make something out of Priest, and I really firmly believe they do, what if he did this? Between Rumble, Drew beats Seth at Rumble.
Yeah.
Between then and Mania, what if Priest tries to cash in and fails, but then they tell a story of him getting back to Drew, because Drew's a bad guy. You get Priest, make him a good guy. Mm-hmm. At Mania, Priest wins the title. Drew just has like a short run, and Priest wins the title straight up at Mania. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Tell a story with that shit, man. Vince really just slept on telling real stories, didn't he?
Oh, I know. Definitely did. I mean, White Brownie says, if you guys had to choose between Becky or Bailey to win the Rumble, who would it be? Let's throw back to the days of Matt Chat. Why don't we and debate this?
Okay.
Pick Becky or Bailey to win the Rumble, and why? Go, Steve.
Bailey is for my money, Bailey is the best story right now. Let's face it, Becky doesn't really have a story right now. She's been sort of floating between roles, not even stories, between roles. Bailey and her status, her shaky status with Damage Control is a great opportunity to have her, to number one, get that crowd firmly on her side as a babyface, because nobody wants to be kicked out of like a home. That sucks. And then she wins the Rumble and she takes on Io Sky at WrestleMania. I totally just stole your idea. I just realized it because you've talked about that a bunch lately. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Becky winning the Rumble is like the quickest path to give us a dream match, Becky versus Rhea at WrestleMania. Yes, there's other ways you could easily motivate it, justify it. But Becky's saying, well, I'm looking at my watch here, my clock. It's Mania season. I need me a big time match suited for a star of my caliber. That means I got to go through the Rumble, win the Rumble, and I'm going to face the most dominant force in WWE's women's division, and that's Rhea Ripley. And that'd be a huge win for Rhea because Becky's not going to win that match.
Right.
Yeah. You have Rhea beat, arguably the top star in the entirety of WWE's women's division at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Talk about a coronation moment. That's it.
And then you can do Bianca versus Charlotte as the other marquee women's match there.
Or you could do Jade versus Charlotte if they want to do that.
Bianca, I'll be honest. Jade's if they still have her in the Performance Center right now, man, you do Bianca, because Bianca, she's beaten Sasha, she's beaten Becky now.
Mm-hmm. She's beaten Bailey several times. She's
beaten Bailey a bunch of times. Charlotte's like a title unto herself.
Yeah,
Bianca deserves that, and I think I think Triple H is going to be like, well, we're going to go with the established names who deserve, who can use this win. And that's going to be Charlotte. There's lots of time for Jade.
Yeah.
Hold off on that one.
Courtesy of John Pollock here, we have our lineup for Continental Classic matches this week on Dynamite and Collision. They are as follows. Tonight on Dynamite, we're getting Roosh versus Jay White.
Okay.
Swerve versus Jay Lethal.
Okay.
And then Mox taking on Mark Briscoe.
Okay.
On Collision, we'll have Garcia versus Claudio.
Okay.
Ooh, tough matchup for Eddie at first. Eddie versus Brody King.
Wow. Yeah. Do you think there's a chance that these titles are going to like switch hands a couple times during the...
It's possible. Yeah, it's entirely possible.
That'd be kind of nuts. That'd be interesting. Wonder if they do that.
It adds an air of unpredictability to the proceedings, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Next question. DJ Hawk here asked, do you think WWE is going the John Cena route with Bianca in the way that a lot of us want to see a heel turn, but she is a mega babyface that kids love and does a lot of company marketing, so we will never see that? I won't say never see it. If it gets to be 5, 6, 7 years of her being top babyface or one of the top babyfaces in whatever brand she's in, then it gets less likely, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. John Cena is a very particular case.
Mm-hmm.
Where it wasn't just he did a lot of company marketing. It wasn't just that he sold a lot of merch. It was the Make-A-Wish stuff. Like, there was a lot of reasons, it seemed like, from a business perspective, that turning him heel would just be a bad idea.
I would think that maybe specifically the Make-A-Wish stuff, the stuff that like sort of you need to be a good guy, would probably be the same reason why they wouldn't turn Bianca. Man, it's I would say this, it'll probably be a real challenge but the bottom line is if it'd be one thing if she was like always champion. She ain't champion now. Mm-hmm. You don't need to have her chasing a title in order to keep her interesting, and probably you want to keep her away from the title scene, and she'll be a more effective babyface.
Yeah.
People want to see fresh faces get those titles, and people who have paid their dues, have opportunities to get those titles. She's got the record for the longest title reign. And if you can tell really interesting stories with her as a good guy, then there's no reason you can't have your cake and eat it too. If there's something really compelling where, if two things, if there's something really compelling where it's like, this just makes sense for her to be a bad guy. And at the same time, from a business perspective, you have boosted enough of your talent to fill in that role. Because I think WWE really wants depth, so they don't have to have a John Cena doing all the Make-A-Wish. They can have several names doing it. If they want to turn Drew McIntyre bad guy, then they'll have a Seth Rollins fill in that role at Make-A-Wish as a good guy. And similar for, like, you know, the women's division, I guess. So I don't know that we're never going to see it. On one hand, I think it'd be really interesting for her to maybe be sort of like a Bobby Lashley type bad guy where he'll do some nasty things, but the crowd still hella loves him, and probably because he does really cool things.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. You know, it'd be such a departure, and I think that's one thing that Triple H is trying to do is the Kevin Owens route, where Kevin Owens, if he was a good guy or a bad guy, he'd be the same person, and he would always, the performer would always find a way to justify that stuff and make reference to his past. And the way Bianca is, the way her character is now, it'd be difficult for me to see her as like arrogant heel, you know, maybe more in the Drew McIntyre mold of person who just got fed up with being a pushover. I
mean, it seemed like we were near that point earlier this year with Bianca.
Like in what situation?
When Charlotte skipped the line for the title shot.
Oh yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
It felt like that could have been on the horizon if they wanted to pursue that angle. They didn't. But.
Well, you can do. I mean, you could do sort of like the Becky Lynch turn, where you know, like she got fed up, attacked Charlotte, and the crowd just really liked it. And then you got some new fire behind Bianca. You thought you were going to turn bad guy, but you just made her a stronger babyface because she got tired of being a pushover. So.
Well, I mean, ultimately, what it is, whether Raw or babyface or heel, people aren't going to get bored of talent or talent's position on the card if they're doing interesting stuff.
That's true. That's totally
If they're
true.
involved in compelling stories, whether babyface, heels, winning titles or not, if they're involved in interesting storylines and the crowd's into it,
right.
I just don't think people are going to be like, oh, boo. You know?
I agree with that. Yeah,
for the sake, you know, like for Cena, it was just like, oh, he's in the same position again.
And here's the thing.
Without necessarily doing interesting stuff, sorry.
Lol Cena wins. Yeah. The same phrase was thrown around with Bianca towards the tail end of Vince's run. Lol Bianca, where she won everything. Babyfaces shouldn't win everything. Nope. They should struggle. They should have adversity. That's what makes them relatable. What makes them a good guy is like you're always trying to, you know, climb that hill. You're always trying to climb that mountain. And you keep on getting kicked down and you keep on coming back and fighting. And if you can continue to tell that story, people will continue to respond to Bianca as a good guy.
Exactly. Ophelia, the monster here, asks, are USA chants at foreign wrestlers old? Yes. Stop doing it.
They were old 20 years ago.
Stop doing it. Please.
It was horrible. That was terrible. What are people like? That's so dumb.
I know.
Ophelia, by the way, is a new patron. Wanted to point that out.
Thank you so much.
We've got a Patreon, patreon.com/Steven Larson. $5 and up a month gets you bonus episodes. It gets you access to our huge predictions challenge, which we got part 2 of Week of Champions 3 coming up at Survivor Series on Saturday.
Correct.
And then we've also got question threads. You can also get that same stuff by clicking join here on the YouTube. And that's $5 a month, too. It's a great way to help support Going In Raw and the Friendo Club. By the way, we're not live right now, so I don't know how many people have hit the like button, but do us a solid, hit that like button. We like to get like 300. These days, the bar has been risen, Larson.
Raised.
It's been rose. 300 likes. That's the new way.
Well, that's on the live stream, though. This isn't being live streamed. There's no upper limit to this.
Well, I don't think there's ever any upper limit.
No, I know. But like when we're finished with the live stream, it's like, all right, by the time we're done the live stream, 300 likes is great.
Yeah, right.
There's no live stream here. So I'm not going to say, yes, 300 likes is great. Because guess what? If we're 301, people will be like, We don't have to like anymore.
Listen, just hit the like button if you're watching this and you're enjoying the bants, right?
Yeah.
The camaraderie here.
Yes.
At Going In Raw. Hit that like button. If you like hearing us talk about the Continental Classic and making outdated jokes about Christopher Walken's skit on SNL.
Yeah.
Sometimes I try to combine the words skit and sketch because it's sort of the same thing. Hey, did you do Connections today?
Similar. What?
Did you do Connections today?
I tried to do it, and I didn't have my coffee yet. I didn't sleep great last night because our smoke alarm in our bedroom went off at 1:30 in the morning.
Went off, or just did the annoying thing where it's all beep? It's like, what the
it didn't
fuck?
do that. It actually went off. Obviously, everything's fine because a couple days ago, the one in our hallway did the beeps because the battery is running low.
Beep. And
so, got to do one of those because we have the ones that you can't change the battery out of. You got to replace the whole thing. That's what they put in here before we moved in. And then the one in our bedroom didn't do the beeps. It actually was going off for, I don't know, a couple minutes, and then it stopped.
That's irritating.
So I took that down. Got to get a new one of those. They're only 5 years old. They're supposed to last 10 years.
Man, everything's bunk these days. Also,
you got that right.
It's not bunk. New patrons as well. Matthew Gill, Roberto Barrera Amigo, the aforementioned Ophelia, JD, and Keith. Thank you very much for your support. So we appreciate it. The B-Man, Patrick Sparks, says, hey, friendos, Pat here. What would the landscape of WWE look like if the recent merger happened a decade ago? AEW, here's a hot take. AEW wouldn't exist.
Probably not. But here's the thing. Neither UFC or Endeavor were what they are now a decade ago. So I don't know if Endeavor would have had the means to do merger.
I take this question more as if the same sequence of events, if Vince McMahon basically gave his company away, because it is so mind blowing that when you look at it, he just sort of gave his company away
basically
for less money than it was worth.
Yeah, I know.
In the end, because I don't know what the stock price is today, but when he was cashing out all that stock,
it was under $80.
Yeah. Your company was worth $100 a share, more than $100 a share.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's mind-boggling.
It's weird. I'm still trying to find out, okay, what was the upside of this? Maybe somebody can explain in the comments. So he gave his company away, and then the head of the company, who had promised to keep him around, immediately went back on that, shoved him aside.
Elbow him out.
And then in every situation possible said, yeah, this guy's the reason why our stock is low. So if that scenario had happened, regardless of what the company was, what the ROG, whoever they merged with 10 years ago.
No, I understand.
Power balance. Power balance.
There you go. Sleep Train.
Sleep Train. Well, now we're just naming off the sponsors of Arco.
Arco.
Yeah, WWE and Arco. If Vince McMahon had been edged out 10 years ago and Triple H was the guy, then I think he probably would have been, basically making it the gold and black, but for main roster, right?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
And if that's the case, I don't know that, because let's face it, man, Vince McMahon was the thing keeping people from coming to WWE. The Young Bucks, the Elite, they were like, yeah, we're going to make our own company instead of dealing with that guy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, prosperity. Their stock would be $200 a share.
Monopoly is probably what it'd be.
yeah, Monopoly. That's another. Monopoly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, WWE buys, the New Japan and all that.
Buys TNA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Monopoly. That's the word.
Yeah.
Blake Whitehouse asks, "What should the end goal for Nikki Cross's current story be?"
I don't know. She moves.
Yeah,
she wakes up from her catatonic waking somnambulist state.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what the motivation behind anything is right now with her, so it's hard to know what the end goal, much less direction, is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how much Triple H is just. Let me ask you something from a creative standpoint. Again, Larson's got the book, right? Would you ever set things up without knowing where they're going to go,
Absolutely
but also
not.
understanding what's that?
Absolutely not.
Not even small things like Nikki Cross.
No.
Do you think Triple H is here?
I would like to hope so, because more often than not, when something's been set up, there's at least been a plan for some measure of follow through. Maybe not end game, but because as he puts it, the story never ends. It always goes on.
See, I don't think it's that egregious of a thing to set up some things where it's like, oh, we can play with this down the line. We can mess with this. It doesn't have to have, because fitting everything into this grand scheme, I just don't know. I don't know. Pro wrestling can work like that, but it's like, hey, we want to get Nikki Cross on TV. We don't have anything right now. But I want to get her on TV. Let's just have her do something kind of weird, and then we can mess with that. We'll find some clever way to pay it off down the line. Let's just make sure that it doesn't get like stale or something like that, I could see that.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I that would drive me crazy, though. Me personally, that would drive me nuts.
Not me, man. I want to keep all them balls in the air and not have any idea which is coming down first.
Like going into it, like say that's pitched to me, and I'd just say why. Keep her on TV. That's fine, but why is she doing this? Explain to me why she suddenly exists in this catatonic state. And if that question can't be answered,
not going to do it. Yeah. No. Okay. All right. There you go. Steve's burner account, Andre Zimpel. I promise, not this Steve. My burner account.
There's a lot of Steves out there.
There are a lot of Steves out there. That's true. He says, is it just me? Usually when they say that, it is just them. Or is the trope of someone being laid out outside of the ring during the count out only for them to get a sudden boost of energy at the 9 count to get back in the ring a bit overplayed and boring to see? In this case, I can say it's not just him. The sudden burst of energy at 9.5, I can't stand that, dude.
No. I love when they can time it right. And like 7.5, they start kind of crawling. It's more dramatic that way rather than waiting the last second and sliding in the ring.
Yeah, I know.
When there's a build and you can see them getting up on trying to get to their feet to get the apron just at 9.5, and they just barely make it in.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. Yeah.
So no, you're not the only one. Steve's burner account, Andre Zimpel.
I don't like when they just jump in there all of a sudden.
No, not a fan. Not a fan. Alex Foster here says, what meal would you make for Von Wagner if he came over for dinner like he did with Stone? Did you see that Von brought some cosmic brownies?
No, but that's awesome. I'll watch NXT later on, I guess. Because I saw him eating some cosmic. I did see him eating. I didn't realize there were cosmic brownies. I saw him eating that with like some kids or something. That sounded pretty funny.
Yeah. What? There's a lot going on over here.
I can tell. Clown says, in the spirit of... what would you make for Von Wagner if he came over for dinner? I don't know. Some dog food, maybe. Get out a can. Put some kibble in a bowl.
Wow. Not even wet food.
No, he gets that dry-ass kibble.
No.
My dog gets... She don't even get excited for it. She looks at me like, man, kibble... Because I made enchiladas out of some leftover rotisseries we got the other day.
Yeah.
And I was taking all the bits that I wasn't going to use for the enchiladas, and Gypsy was just right there, just feeding her all that field strip chicken. And then later on, she's like, "Hey, can I get some more food?" I'm like, "Here's some kibble." She's looking at me like, "Man, this sucks, dude."
Yeah.
You're gonna eat anyways.
My dog's same.
So I don't know. I'd make enchiladas for Von Wagner.
There we go. I'll make Von some chili.
There you go. Perfect. Hey, I got the farts right now because I had some of Larson's chili.
It's Fart Tuesday. Clown here says, in the spirit of the holiday, who has been the biggest turkey this year in wrestling?
Oh, dude. So who is it that had a good going in Raw Wrestler of the Year for
Case?
us? Huh?
Got a good case for going in Wrestler of the Year, right?
And it was dead on. It was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense.
I don't know. I always forget these things.
Yeah, I know. We'll have to go back and think about it.
Was it Lexus King?
Yes, it was. Yeah. That's exactly who it was. It was Pillman Jr. That dude is turkey incarnate, man. That guy was walking across the road slowly while I'm trying to get to Winco, and I got to stop my car and wait for it to cross the road because we got a bunch of them out here.
Yep.
And then the turkey takes off his sunglasses.
Trying to put it in his plumage. Throws it aside.
His plumage, yeah. I remember people like, oh wow, you see these cool little vignettes with Pillman Jr. He's watching TV. His dad's on TV. Yeah. That could be cool. No, don't think so. No. At the end of the day, man, it's still just Pillman Jr.
Yep.
Oh man. Anyways, with that, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hit that like button. Let's try to get it up to 300.
No, way more than 300. What are you thinking?
Well, give us a number. Give us a number then.
750.
Okay, 750. Let's try to get this up to 750. I know the dummies aren't going to know where the like button is to hit 750 though.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, prove me wrong, everybody. Prove me wrong and prove Larson right. Let's get to 750. Oh, that's too much to ask of people if you ask me, especially
I don't think so.
On Thanksgiving Eve. Yeah, so that's going to do it for the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. Till next time. We'll see you around.
Goodbye.